Our attention lies on the first of 5 ODIs between India and the West Indies. After the Test series that proved to be quite the disappointment in terms of competition, we're hoping for a slightly better competitive series in the one-day internationals. However, it is a depleted West Indies side without their star players. It is India back at just about full strength, the exception of a couple of fast bowlers that they've rested. Looking ahead to the first ODI in Guwahati on ESPNcricinfo Match Day, familiar company of Ajit Agarkar, who I must also congratulate after his team won the Vijay Hazare Trophy yesterday.
Yeah, I had to bowl really well yesterday.
Yeah. I think
the guys played well throughout the tournament, so it was fun.
And it might be interesting to see how the Mumbai team would fare against this West Indies team. I think it would be quite a contest because, without being disrespectful, the Test series weren't a contest, and this, with everything that we've seen from the squad and the mismatch between these two sides, you can expect the same from the ODIs almost.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, the only difference would be in an ODI game, an individual could easily turn the game on its head, and they have some guys. You know, we saw them, batsmen in particular, attack in Test cricket as you would bat in a T20 or a one-day game. If one of them comes off, we could very well have a situation where they set the game up for West Indies or win it on their own. So it might again be a case of individual brilliance that wins West Indies a one-day game or two. But this point, clearly India way ahead of them.
I mean, the players that you associate individual brilliance with also don't feature in this bilateral series. Chris Gayle has pulled out because he wants to play T20 cricket and other franchise cricket around the world. There's no Evan Lewis, there's no Kieron Pollard, he joins for the T20s. Andre Russell joins for the T20s. No Bravo brothers for this series. So look at the record in the last 2 years. You'll get an idea of why this is such a mismatch. India with a 68% win ratio, they rank at number 2. The West Indies at 9 had to go through the ordeal of a World Cup qualifier and even then needed their best players to come together and somehow manage a spot for England 2019. So it doesn't bode well. But we'll talk about the West Indies problems later too. India have won the toss in Guwahati, in a new stadium in Guwahati, and Virat Kohli's decided to have a bit of a bowl first. We don't know much about the Baraspara Stadium, but you played in Guwahati around about this time of year.
Yeah, I mean we played a lot of day games in Guwahati. I can't remember. I think there was one day-night game that I might have played in the old stadium. I'm not sure. There used to be a lot of dew in the morning. Whether that happens later in the evening, and Virat Kohli's probably accounted for that as well. But also, playing with 5 bowlers now.
Yes.
Essentially. So he's obviously wants his strong batting lineup to take the responsibility of trying to chase down total. West Indies will be under a bit more pressure, not quite knowing what target to set. And at the toss, he said there won't be much change in the pitch. So India has been good at chasing in recent times. So not surprised either.
I like the fact that they've started announcing 12s just before the game. It kills all the suspense perhaps, but at least it gives us some clarity in where to take the conversation. Confirmation from the 12 of the 11 that India have picked. And Virat Kohli confirming that it is 3 fast bowlers. So there's room for Khalil Ahmed, Mohammad Shami and Umesh Yadav, who was a late draft into the squad for the injured Shardul Thakur. And there's no place for Kuldeep Yadav. So Yuzvendra Chahal, the only wrist spinner, Ravindra Jadeja, the all-round option. So those are the bowling options that you have on the right. And it looks like those are the only bowling options that you'll have, because if you look at the left-hand side, there's no one who can bowl. Rishabh Pant gets an ODI debut. We already confirmed that yesterday on ESPNcricinfo. And Ambati Rayudu has the captain's backing for number 4. On that team, Ajit, 3 seamers and no Kuldeep.
Yeah, I mean, couple of huge calls. Rishabh Pant, obviously very keen to see how he goes. If he can sort of, that's clear potential there to succeed in the shorter format. If he can do well for India, that's one of the problems solved for Virat Kohli. Also, he's the kind of guy where you can sort of float in the order, need be left-hander as well, and must be having a lot of confidence from that Test series. Jadeja is more an insurance for that batting, just in case there is, the top 3 have been doing most of the job for India. And as much as the captain said that Rayudu's there at number 4, he still has to do a bit more for me to seal that spot. MS Dhoni form has been patchy, and you've got a debutant in Pant. So Jadeja is more insurance for batting, because they don't have a Kedar Jadhav or a Hardik Pandya, both missing. I mean, a little bit surprised that Kuldeep Yadav's not been picked. But I can understand where, and whilst he says we've ticked most of the boxes, that is obviously a little bit of a worry that if you lose 2 or 3 at the top, you want that extra batting option. So Jadeja, I think Kuldeep unfortunate to miss out.
I mean, we talk of Jadeja and the all-rounder as the insurance because you want to have 6 bowling options. But in this series, with both Hardik Pandya and Kedar Jadhav out, you have to play 5 bowlers regardless. In which case, would you have preferred him going for his 5 frontline bowlers? But then you say that leaves the batting.
Yeah, it was always a tricky one. I mean, depends on how much confidence he has in a Raidu, Pant and MS Dhoni.
Yeah.
Just in case India lose a few early, to then maybe try and. I still feel there's enough experience and quality there to go in with 6 batsmen. But considering it's the first game, and also there might be is bowling first. Luckily won the toss. There might be a little bit in there for a spinner, or maybe a touch slow. Jadeja can then be a consistent 5th bowler. But if it's pitch is flat, I would have gone with Kuldeep Yadav. I mean, my choice anyway would have been Kuldeep Yadav if you had to look at positively and take the 6 batsmen, take all the pressure, and scoring runs. But it is a tough situation to be in. That's what a Hardik Pandya brings to the team. You know, not just bowling but batting lower down the order. So it is. But this is a good series to look at all these things, how well it can work and not.
I mean, it could be very, just these 5 bowlers could be enough for the kind of form and reputation that the West Indies batsmen come in with. But this day and age, injuries, etc., you've gone in with only 5 bowlers. Not too many teams do that. But India are one of those teams that don't have too many part-time bowlers.
Yeah, I mean, Kedar Jadhav's injury hasn't helped either. They are playing 2 wicket keepers in the team who obviously can't bowl.
Yes. MS Dhoni is not the worst with the ball, but that's not.
I doubt he's going to be bowling in the game. So it is a tricky situation to be part of. But at least they're playing against a team who you'd expect India to beat if they play well enough. Not an ideal situation with the way one-day cricket has gone, with the sort of field restrictions and the rules that are in place. 2 new balls from either end.
Seems like a small ground from the pictures that we got.
Yeah, 60 boundary one end, 63 yards. I mean, 60 meters. Yeah, not many grounds in India are big anyway. So I don't think. Again, it'll be interesting to see how the pitch plays. 5 bowlers is not ideal, but I don't think he has a choice at the moment.
Okay, the West Indies, what's the combination that they've gone for? They've had problems, as I said, on not having their premier players available or making themselves available for this tournament. So it's a debut for Chandrapal Hemraj, the left-hand opening bat from Guyana. Kieran Powell, who normally bats middle order in ODI cricket, will be bumped up to open like he did in the Tests. Shai Hope and Shimron Hetmeyer we've seen in the Tests as well. Marlon Samuels is back in the West Indies ODI setup after featuring in the World Cup qualifiers in March this year. Rovman Powell, powerful all-rounder, plays a lot of T20 cricket. Ashley Nurse with Devendra Bishu with spin responsibilities. And it's a debut for O'Shane Thomas, the 21-year-old right-arm seamer who plays for the Jamaica Talawas. Kemar Roach returns as well, the experienced fast bowler. What's the first impression when you look at that team?
I mean, they've got a bit more experience in that middle order in Marlon Samuels. We've seen Hetmeyer. Obviously Shai Hope looks a really good player, very classy in that few runs that he got in both those tests. Guys like Hetmeyer, those sorts of guys, can Powell at the top. Chandrapal we haven't seen much. Those unknown sort of players can sometimes be dangerous, especially at the start of a series. They can get going, the batting first as well. They can be. Holder, I hope Holder again plays a bigger role, doesn't put himself down at 7 or 8, because seems to be a guy who can do everything at the moment. Doesn't look the strongest side on paper, but there are lots of unknowns for India in that lineup, which is never great. So they'll have to bat well again.
It seems to suggest these kind of batsmen wouldn't mind playing 3 seamers and a conventional left-arm spinner. Room for Kuldeep Yadav, who again I was surprised Virat Kohli dropped in that T20 in Bristol, where he said short boundaries, doesn't want to play the spinner. He seems to be a key player in India's white ball setup. I think it's
just how the team is at the moment that's forced him to play Jadeja more than Kuldeep Yadav. There would have been another thought if the pitch had a bit more for spinners to play 3 spin options. Instead, looks like a good pitch, so you need 3 seamers. He's actually been forced to with the lineup that it is. I think so. If Jadeja doesn't bowl well in this game, then he might have to start looking at options on how we can go about it. It's the way the squad is at the moment. There are far too many specialized batsmen and specialized bowlers, and Jadeja seems to be the only guy who can do a bit of both. So he's been forced into that sort of selection at least for this first game.
And because he's got so many specialized batsmen.
But the West Indies prefer that. instead of a Kuldeep Yadav for sure.
So they'd be happier to play a Ravindra Jadeja. Now Kohli's predicament comes from the fact that he's got a batting lineup, as Ajit Agarkar says, after the top three there are still question marks about, but he has put his faith in Ambati Rayudu. He said that at the toss. He also said that before this game, speaking to the media.
See, the only position that we were trying to figure out was number 4 for a long time, and we tried many players which unfortunately could not be cemented in a way that we would have wanted. We were looking at Rayudu for England, but again, some guidelines that had to be followed, because of which he could not make it, but he made it to the Asia Cup. And the team felt there, and I also, what I watched, felt like he's designed to play that middle order batsman role. So we feel that the batting order is more or less balanced now, and now these 18 games would be to give the perfect combination that we want to take into the World Cup. All games together, barring injuries or niggles. We want one combination to play through and through, and apart from bowlers resting here and there in one-day cricket, we only changed the number 4 slot because we wanted someone to cement it. But we believe that Rayudu is the right person to capitalize, and because he's experienced and he's won many games for his state in IPL cricket as well, and he has a great one-day record already for India. So I think the batting order is sorted as far as we are concerned now.
That's the record that Virat Kohli refers to as great. Yes, an average of just under 50, 11 not outs in that. So Ambati Rayudu, who's had, as far as the numbers go, a very solid start, but he's been in and out, somehow finds his place out. He's not the youngest of options, but maybe India need to look at someone like Rayudu as far as Virat Kohli is concerned. Let's react to Kohli's comments. First, he says that the only position is number 4. Do you agree?
Not really. I think the 4, 5, 6 have been a bit, I don't think they've won too many games for India. I think it's the 1, 2, 3 that have done the job. Asia Cup, they were put under a bit of pressure. Kedar Jadhav sort of came back out injured and won India that game. 4, obviously, he's been talking about it. I hope now that he's said it, that Rayudu seems to be the guy. At least he plays these 5 games at number 4 and doesn't tinker with that. For me, I think he's got to still do a bit more. Look, he's got the experience of having played domestic cricket or first class cricket for a while, has done well in the IPL like Virat said. But number 4 is a different spot. In Asia Cup, we saw him bat at number 3 when Virat was missing or open on one of those occasions. And then suddenly number 4 becomes different. You bat in a different situation. 3, sometimes you go into the first over, you have a field up. It is a different challenge. So, yeah, look, he's done well, so he deserves that opportunity, and hopefully he can cement that and reduce the worries for India. And number 6, with Kedar Jadhav maybe coming back from injury, now Pant being tried, Hardik Pandya himself, so there are a few options that he has, but number 4, which he keeps talking about, hopefully Rayudu can bat number 4 all these 5 games and not again tinker and go back to the same thing. Alright,
we'll just have a look at Ambati Rayudu batting position wise in ODI cricket, and just looking at where Rayudu gets his runs and what is the position that he ideally prefers. Now he bats 4 in the 10 innings. It's not the biggest of sample sizes, but he's also batted at 3 as he did through a large part of the Asia Cup, 16 innings and an average of 68. So as Kohli points out, suited for that middle order role and has done it before in IPL cricket and whatnot, but that's what
but the top 3 is the best positions to bat in one-day cricket at the moment. Number 4, you not only have to bat through that middle period when there are slower bowlers, but also, be long enough to try and finish the innings, which is in itself a different challenge. You don't quite know who those 10 innings at number 4 were against either. But at the moment, he seems to be the front runner for that spot. Hopefully, he can prove the captain right.
Okay, well, let's move our attention to the West Indies. They will be batting first, so Rayudu's role will only come into play second innings. In the midst of all this inexperience and a couple of debutants, one at the top of the order, they will rely, as Ajit said, on the experience of Marlon Samuels, who had 37 years and 258 days. He's easily the oldest player in both sides. He's back to the West Indies team, and here's a little more on how he always gets the runs against India.
7 out of the 15 touring West Indians have not played an international game in India yet. The torchbearer they will depend upon to find success is their oldest squad member, Marlon Samuels. After all, he knows India since his first tour 16 years ago, when he made 2 centuries. But was also nearly sent home for breaching a curfew. It's also in India where he steered the West Indies to their second World T20 final win. Yep, that night when he showed up to meet the press like this. We could recall more such antics from Samuel's 18-year-long career, but we'd rather talk about his stroke play, especially in big matches. He's one of only 8 West Indians with over 1,000 ODI runs against India, with more than 900 of them coming in India. In fact, the last time the Calypsos arrived for a bilateral series, he struck 2 tons. He also bowled 3 overs of his suspect off breaks and bagged 2 wickets. Standing just outside this elite club of West Indians to have played over 200 ODIs, Samuels will shoulder the responsibility to hammer runs on flat tracks, especially with his fellow Jamaican not around.
Well, those ESPN shots, you can catch more of them on the site, but that's what we've got for you on Marlon Samuels. If you look at the most runs for the West Indies in the last 5 years in ODIs, he's right up there. Unbelievably, Jason Holder is in second place. But again, it's a result of a lot of key players not having featured for the Windies in international cricket over the past few years. Right, that's the focus on Marlon Samuels. From the bowling front, India have to look at the reserve seam options that they have now in the absence of Jasprit Bumrah and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, who continue to remain out to address their workload and manage their workload. Mohammad Shami returns to the ODI setup after well over a year or so. What's the expectation from Mohammad Shami? You like the fact that he has been picked and you want to see him around the ODI setup?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, for whatever reasons he kept missing out, Bumrah doing so well, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar as well, Hardik Pandya played as a 3-seamers a lot of the times. He's a wicket taker. You know, Shami, I think you need guys who are going to get wicket. Himself, Umesh, you know, Khalil, very keen to see how he goes now that he's got, you know, that first series out of the way. Looked quite promising, but yeah, Shami, you can see the numbers. You know, Shami's got, you can see the strike rate that he usually has in one-day cricket, and hopefully this is, India will need him going forward. Hopefully he can, you know, get some more consistency in one-day cricket.
I mean, look at that, 50 matches for Mohammad Shami, so it's not like he's not got his share of the games, but just looking at how those 50 matches have actually come about as far as Mohammad Shami's ODI career goes. It's been a bit of in and out for him. 2013, the year he came into international cricket, 20 matches, a very good World Cup in 2015, and therefore those numbers pretty good, an average of just under 21. Then whether an injury or whatnot, he's just found his way out of the setup. New ball for him though, or would you hold off and give it to Umesh Yadav and Khalil Ahmed?
No, I think I'd probably go with Shami, although I'm not quite sure who Virat would go with. I think Khalil for sure, for me. I think the left arm option's a really exciting one. If he can keep improving till the World Cup comes around, seems to be having everything that you need in a seamer. You know, a little bit of pace, extra pace, bounce, and like I said, the left arm option. But Shami, I would open with him. I think give him at least the first couple of overs and see if he can get it right. The bowl's quite straight. Even though Umesh picked up wickets in that last test, you know, Shami would be my pick to start.
I think you'd be pleased with Umesh Yadav's return to the ODI setup too. You were quite confused as to why he was left out after England in any event from white ball cricket.
Yeah, I mean, one of those guys who seems to be discarded quite easily. You know, it's so good. He'll have to get his form back in one-day cricket. It's a tough place to bowl these days. Quite flat the wickets and long batting lineups that you play against. So, but it's an opportunity again to, you know, get your sort of one-day career back on track.
And arguably there is a position that someone would like to take as the reserve seamer or the third frontline fast bowler if India are to use that option at the World Cup, which is up for grabs right now.
Yeah, I think a couple of spots. I mean, if you look at maybe Hardik, you would think go with Bumrah and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. Unless I'm missing somebody else, you would think that 5 seamers would go to that World Cup. In England, that you might need them. You know, the balls, okay, the 2 wrist spinners that you have. But apart from that, I don't know how much of a role a normal finger spinner would play in England. So you would need 5. So there are probably 2 spots up for grabs. And these 3 definitely, 2 out of these 3, in my opinion, are likely to go at this stage the way it looks.
Okay, I mean, no Jasprit Bumrah, no Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. If this goes the 50 overs, assuming that the West Indies will put up a decent enough fight, anyone who would put their hand up to want to for Virat Kohli to try and use as the death bowler for this, Umesh Yadav over the other 2 perhaps?
Yeah, no, in fact I thought the other way around, Shami and Khalil did a bit of it in the Asia Cup, so that would help. Sometimes a left arm, seamer, just changes angles, sometimes makes it a little bit difficult for the batters to get him away. Even though he's inexperienced, he'd probably be the guy. Some also depends on who's bowling well on the day.
Sure.
It's such a call from the captain on that particular day. Could very well be Umesh, but Shami and Khalil would be my first picks.
Now, it's the first ODI at this stadium, so hard to pick. But from the look of the pitch, size of the ground, 300, certainly something to keep India competitive.
Not sure. I mean, the size, it's not a big ground, so you would think that a lot more boundaries and sixes would be scored. It'll all depend on the pitch and which West Indies have turned up, and hopefully one of them, gets going, because we've seen potential in few of those batters. Unfortunately, none of them went and got a big one apart from Chase in that 2-test series. One of them can, if they can bat about 25-30 overs, they can always be dangerous.
All right, many thanks, Ajit. Pick this conversation up at the innings break, at which time we'll also take your questions and comments on ESPNcricinfo Match Day. So do join us then. For now, news from Guwahati. The first ODI is that Virat Kohli will be bowling first. Let's see how the West Indies go in their first innings.